Hello and a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to today's Flash News. We're going to be looking at a whole lot, thousands evacuated, structures destroyed, fatalities reported as wildfire rages on in Los Angeles. I am Oyin Okbala and we would only delve into these after this short break. Well, the Palisades fire in Los Angeles County, California, has been raging since January 7th, 2025, and the situation is still there. As of the latest update, the fire has burned over 22,660 acres of land, with only 11,011% containment. That's very sad. The fire has destroyed more than 5,000 structures, and the number is expected to rise as the damage assessment continues. The fire is being fought by a massive team of 3,712 personnel, including firefighters, engineers, and support staff. They are using a range of resources, including 24 helicopters, 463 engines, 60 dozers, and 62 water tenders. Despite their efforts, the fire remains a significant threat, with 2 confirmed fatalities and 3 injuries reported so far. The fire has led to the evacuation of thousands of people, with mandatory evacuation orders in place for several areas, including the Dry U0260A, Los Q076, and Max C11A. The evacuation orders are in effect due to the immediate threat to life, and the people are being advised to leave now. The Los Angeles County Sheriff Department has also issued a curfew order for the affected areas from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The curfew is in place to prevent looting and to ensure public safety. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, but it is clear that the strong Santa Ana winds and severe drought conditions in the regions have contributed to the fire spread. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has secured federal assistance to support the response to the fire. The fire has also had a significant impact on the local community, with road closures in place and animal evacuation shelters set up to help pets and livestock. The Los Angeles County Animal Care Center as well has set up several animal evacuation shelters, including one at El Camino High School and another at Pomona Fairplex. The UCLA community is also affected, with students being advised to stay vigilant and ready to evacuate due to the nearby Palisades fire. The university has set up an emergency operations center to coordinate its response to the fire. As the situation continues to evolve, it is essential to stay informed and follow the latest updates from the Cal Fire and the Los Angeles Fire Department. You can also check the Cal Fire 3D map to see the latest information on the fire spread and evacuation zones. Away from the fire, let's talk about the ceasefire being on the horizon. Israel and Hamas holds historic indirect talks in Doha, as Qatar says deal is very close. In a whole new significant breakthrough, talks have resumed in Doha, Qatar, with the aim of securing a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages. Well, according to a Palestinian official familiar with the negotiation, delegations from Israel and Hamas are holding indirect talks in the same building for the first time in the war. This development comes as key mediator Qatar says an agreement is very close. The negotiations, which have been facilitated by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, have been ongoing for several months. The proposed deal, known as the three-phase Israel-Hamas war ceasefire proposal, aims to bring an end to the conflict in Gaza and secure the release of the proposed deal. Hamas war ceasefire proposal aims to bring an end to the conflict in Gaza and secure the release of Israeli hostages held at Hamas. The proposal, which was directed by mediators from Egypt and Qatar, includes a 6-week ceasefire. The release of all Israeli being held in Gaza is exchanged for some Palestinian detainees and a permanent ceasefire.
I said there is a progress. I said it looks much better than previously. I want to thank our American friends for huge efforts they are investing to secure a hostage deal. But I don't want to say more than that, because I realize there are families and they are sensitive to every word and every sentence. So we want a deal. We work hard to have this deal.
While the talks in Doha have been described as intensive and productive, with all parties working towards a mutually acceptable agreement, the fact that Israeli and Hamas delegations are holding indirect talks in the same building is a significant step forward, as it allows for more direct communication and negotiation. The United Nations Security Council has also been involved in the negotiation, with Resolution 2735 backing the proposed agreement and calling on Hamas to accept the deal. The United States has been a key player in the negotiation, with President Joe Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken working closely with their counterparts in Egypt, Qatar, and Israel to secure a ceasefire. While there have been several setbacks and challenges in the negotiations, the fact that talks have resumed in Doha is a positive sign. The Qatari government has expressed optimism about the prospect of a deal, with a spokesperson saying that an agreement is very close. The Palestinian official familiar with the negotiation has also expressed hope that a deal can be reached, saying that the talks are serious and productive. As the negotiations continue, the international community is watching with bated breath. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is very dire, with thousands of civilians caught under crossfire and in desperate need of aid. A ceasefire would bring much needed relief to the people of Gaza and allow for the rebuilding of infrastructure and the restoration of basic services. The release of Israeli hostages is also a key aspect of the proposal. The hostages, who have been held by Hamas for several months, are a major concern for the Israeli government and the international community. Their release would be a significant step towards a lasting peace and would help to build trust between the parties. Overall, the resumption of talks in Doha is a positive development in the quest for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of Israeli hostages, while there are still many challenges to overcome. The fact that all parties are working towards a mutually acceptable agreement is a sign of hope for a more peaceful future. Meanwhile, Wiz fires back. He's a special prosecutor defending Hunter Biden. Oh, well, he thinks that their investigation is impartial and baseless. The special prosecutor, David West, has come out swinging in his final report, defending his investigation into Hunter Biden's gun and tax crimes as impartial and not partisan politics. This is quite a statement, considering the president's own son was at the center of the investigation. West's report is a direct response to Biden's baseless accusations about the case, and it's clear that West is trying to set the record straight. Hunter Biden's lawyer, on the other hand, has a very different take on the investigation, calling it a cautionary tale of the abuse of prosecutionary power. This is a pretty scathing critic, and it's clear that Hunter Time is not happy with how the investigation was handled. It is worth noting that President Biden recently issued an official pardon for his son, who was facing sentencing for 2 criminal cases. Well, this move has likely added fuel to the fire, and it will be interesting to see how this all plays out in the coming days. Meanwhile, Washington is getting ready for a huge event, President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, which is happening next week. The city is basically being transformed into a fortress with 30 miles of tall black temporary fencing and 25,000 law enforcement officers on the ground to keep everything secure. There will be security checkpoints to process the hundreds of thousands of spectators who are expected to show up. The inauguration itself will take place on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, followed by a parade to the White House. But it is not all celebrations. There are also going to be protests by Trump's opponents, as well as parties and rallies by his supporters. So it's going to be a pretty intense weekend. The city is definitely bracing itself for the impact of all these events, with some people even selling memorabilia to commemorate the occasion. Overall, it's going to be a wild ride, with Washington turning into a virtual fortress to accommodate all of these activities. And this is where we draw the curtains on today's episode of the Flash News. Coming up at the top of the hour, 8 p.m., is Undaunted ABC Amber News. Do well to stay with us.